Hey guys, how's it going? Today I want to speak about the subject of, can we know what true happiness is without ever having felt any sadness? Well, the thing is I believe personally that it's part of one of our emotions. We all have sadness, happiness. We all have different things that we feel in our everyday life, starting from being a baby. And starting from being a baby, you literally feel the sadness when you are a baby because you cry. And that's the way that you express yourself. So basically saying that you can feel happiness or you can feel sadness without ever having had either of those is practically impossible, at least in my eyes, if you really think about it. Because, everybody at some point in their life will feel one of these emotions. And the way that you feel them can impact you negatively or positively. But personally, I think that the people that really survive very well in this world are the people who take on whatever emotion they're feeling, such as, for example, sadness, and they take it in a positive light. But I also feel that sadness, fear, stuff like that, like they're very similar if you really think about it, because they're kind of negative. They're negative feelings that we have as human beings. What do I mean by that? Well, you'll have sadness when, I don't know, something that you want to have, you can't have, or if, for example, you get hurt. That's like a sort of moment of sadness. Then fear can happen when basically you have fear. You're presented with the unknown, and then the unknown presents itself in such a way that you're not able to categorize that, and from that fear comes something that's not very positive, and from that fear can stem hate. And then when you have hate, then the hate can also intertwine the other ones, the fear and the sadness, because the fear, the hate will create you to, for example, like in olden times when they didn't understand something, they would burn someone at the stake, for example. It would create hate, which would create fear from the people, and then it would also create sadness because the person dies. But then there's some people that can kind of understood, and they would also feel that. Whereas happiness, for example, that can also stem something else. It could kind of do that's different things. It's usually correlated with positive stuff, and that can create even something that is better than happiness, which is something that encompasses all the little moments that we have in life. That could be joy, because in a way joy is bigger than happiness. But we as human beings obviously have many different points to that different moments in our life where we do have outbursts of happiness. It can come from eating your favorite food, or it can come from seeing a cute dog in the street, or it can come from enjoying a movie. And those are all little moments of happiness that can appear little by little, but then they can also disappear as quickly if you have one of those negative effects. But definitely I believe that it's part of one of our senses, our emotions that we feel as a human being. So obviously there has to be some sort of sadness in order to feel happiness, because if you don't have one with the other, it just doesn't make sense. But it also depends, also in a lot of ways, it really depends on how you deal with those negative emotions. Do you turn them into positive things, or do you make a whole hullabaloo? A lot of times it's kind of like, if you are angry at something, but within a couple days you don't really feel that anger anymore, and especially you don't really remember sometimes why you were angry at X, Y, or Z, being a person, I'm saying the example of a person, then probably at that time it wasn't even that important. And I've even seen worse, where people, for example, will not speak to a friend or a family member for years, and then when you ask them exactly what is it that was your quarrel, they sometimes can't really remember, and it's kind of funny. But also at the same time, you must understand that being happy all the time is not really that positive. It kind of goes with being crazy, because you can't have too much of one emotion. But then the happiness can create joy, and you can have the joy of doing sport, the joy of just being alive, the joy of breathing. And again, it kind of goes in parabellum with happiness, but even bigger in some way, because it just really says that the happiness encompasses everything that you've had from the fear and all that, and you can actually kind of giggle like when a kid discovers something new, and that we kind of lose as adults. And what's funny is, and it's true, I think that's why we always get so close to we love playing with little kids or even animals and stuff like that, because a lot of times, especially when they're young, obviously even like animals, they have that joy that really you can see it in their eyes whenever they discover something for the first time, and then they're like, whoa, this is amazing, and they'll believe kind of whatever you're telling them. And I think it's cool, and that's kind of what we need to do as adults, is sometimes forget the seriousness that we have and take whatever we have in that moment of life and enjoy it. Because I think a lot of people live as if they're immortal, and they think that their health is always going to be the same, or they're always going to remain youthful, or they're always going to kind of stay the same way that they are now. But the truth is that within one day, within 1 second, things can change, and even your youth can be taken away from you, or even your health can be taken away from you if you get hit by a car or have some sort of accident. And it could even just be an illness, and that you just don't recover, and you just thought, oh, it was just going to be like a simple thing, but then it gets bad. And that's where you have to, as a human being, realize that life is very fragile. And I think that in that fragility, you're actually able to understand that basically maybe there is some joy to be had. And maybe that if we didn't have that fear of dying, or that fear of, or that sadness of getting hurt or aging and all that stuff, we might not actually even ever be able to have that happiness. Because I think deep down, as humans, we kind of don't like to talk about it, but at the same time, we kind of acknowledge the fact that we are fragile creatures, and at some moment or another, even if you don't realize it, you will eventually realize it. And when that time comes, then you'll actually you'll have to find that happiness within the sadness, because all the emotions, be it fear, sadness, happiness, joy, they're all very intertwined and similar in their own way. So that's all I have to say on the subject. Have a great day, and I will talk to you soon.